Greetings from the night one time. I am Alexander William Erickson, and in 2012, approximately 15 women signed up to be my sex slave. Some of these women, pictured here, grew up spending between 10 hours a month and once a year to every weekend, seasons, right? Engaging in the overall controls and abuse that I experienced in my life. And ultimately, it was about Alexander Erickson is going to be put through the toughest challenges that any one man has ever faced in all existence. I don't know if I've ever said this. When we look at my 2012 freshman football coaching era, when the kids, the freshman players, asked Matt Hafes, "What's up with Coach Erickson?" Matt Hafes' final answer was, his highest and best use is head of the Central Intelligence Agency. I was Coach Erickson, man. I had my Willie, my Italian bicycle with an extra gear so I could cheat. I had my boonie hat. I had my terrible, bizarre, cycling sunglasses that I would wear. Dude, I was in the zone. I knew I was, in final position of being out of position, about to be back in position because I'm coaching football. So you look at women like this. These are impressive women. And I really got upset. We're going through a lot of rehashing, and that's fine. This is our fourth major rehash since 2018. The rehash was, why does he think that these women are all that? So let's take a look at them. Look at the resumes. Margot Robbie receives glowing recommendation as a human being as part of Brad Pitt's Academy Award acceptance speech. Of glowing recommendations, nobody has more publicly, in my opinion, than Margot Robbie in terms of her character performance on set, on camera. Lisa Ann. Quasars are far different than photons, and they're nowhere nearly as interesting as some people might think. Okay, what do I do with that? Well, Carl Sagan would be my first reference to learn or study about what phasers and quasars, whatever it was that she said in the weird porno scene that I watched, over and over and over again, and I never learned the lesson. And ultimately what that turns into is the functional folklore that while the speed of light calculations that develop and progress as the astrophysics of Carl Sagan are incredibly engaging and have distinct scientific elements of certainty beyond theory. However, they negate intelligent design, which I cannot accept. So when we enter into the space industry and the space race, you have somebody talking about phasars and photons in a pornography scene. So, oh, any chick could do that. How many have? How many have a reputation of being a sports gambling analyst? So when I enter into that probability, what are the chances that Lisa Ann is an NSA spy able to engage me into a space race using an entirely different dynamic of approach to the scientific understanding of what is able to be accomplished when we engage with the agreement that intelligent design, God's engineers, exist and are valuable if we can master our communication with them. So if it was just a porno scene and someone's just feeding Lisa Ann victory, what if that's the entire journey because she doesn't know how to explain what I have her involved in, but is still able to perform at an elite level? Bonnie Elena, you are not a machine. Still haven't gotten the voice right. It'll be a while before I say it to her face because I want to get it right, you know. And, this one, my heart sank. The only time, like the one time, where I felt heartbroken. I felt heartbroken when I had to negotiate out of the deal with the Getty Museum. Heartbroken. I was heartbroken when I saw Bonnie Rotten selling spiderweb merch and her weird wolf t-shirt on Reddit with her address published. However I found her address, I was convinced that I had a home address of hers. I just was not happy with the situation. And man, has she grown. She has grown and changed. One of the most dynamic Facebook account stories in all existence. She celebrated buying some level of rare edition, or at least formal edition, of Machiavelli the Prince and similar writings for her birthday presents. That level of maturity, unbelievable that she was able to catapult her Reddit merch sales into a AK-47 American-made gun sponsorship, gun competition contract. Sasha Grey is portraying a character in the video game The Witcher. And when I was watching this on stream, or rather on YouTube, I was blown away at the remarkable comparison between the scene in the video game that she chose to imitate. This woman clearly plays Halloween at a very high level. And personally speaking, I never discounted that in terms of her opacity or duality to both live and breathe as a psychopath as well as a normal human being. And we went through this courtship process in December, and then it broke in January. And she kept on telling me, you don't know who I am. You don't know who I am. And it bummed me out because I wasn't able to really explain to her my opinion of who she was concisely enough until I defined 40 problems that she has, in my opinion, most of which I do not prescribe to it being her fault. Like when you deal with a woman that's approaching a relationship with me and returning to the concept that these women and others signed up to be my sex slaves. Oh, we are way over time. This is going on YouTube, everybody. This is not Instagram. Worth it. So, like, I had to point out these 40 problems. And in doing so, I called all the women that I've been writing whores. Not all of them. I don't think I got to the entire list. And really degraded myself by the time I got to Cytherea. And that got me kicked off of Twitter again. Hoorah. And now she knows my actual opinion of her as an analyst. And so there's the upset era of me needing to absolutely break off future expectations because of the way that she was being treated. And then address analytically the 40 problems that I now believe she has because of her work of what we would define as a queen analyst. And, you know, the story about Sasha Grey is like there's one of her on every system, right? So, like, theoretically, like when I said that Sasha Grey would be the tech for the Pimp Legion of Doom, which eventually they informed me that they were not interested in her as a tech, but that was my natural predisposition to assume that because I have a set and a system that Sasha Grey would expect to make that position with me in the far off future. And so her doubles got mightily defeated during our courtship process. And so she has, you know, immeasurable problems, from which I don't like. I don't hold her personally accountable beyond the fact that her character is now flawed because of that experience. And I've presented various ways that we can address improving her character. You know, we get into the cycle of how do you ultimately calm these women down into appreciating and valuing the fact that the man to which they pledged their life and their vagina to is achieving at the levels that nobody ever thought I would. And truly their actual commitment to me as my sex slaves, the performance required was far surpassed before January 1st, 2022, in my honest opinion. Not to say if I had quit at that date, I would have been successful. I'm simply saying that in order to define it, like in terms of what their expectations of my performance was, yeah, we had that all wrapped up at the end of 2021. And it's remarkable how none of them psychologically have evolved. They have maintained a static psychology complex. And I believe that's because internally they're able to comprehend that ultimately how they process any given piece of information could result in people's death. So isn't it just easier just to say that the boss is stupid and the boss doesn't know what he's talking about and I'll never have sex with the boss and he's fat? You know, it's just, you know, just cancel everything. You know, but then you get into the overall disassociation of gambling, where Sasha decides, I want to go to war, and invents a currency by saying, okay, if I lose this war, I will never wear lingerie around my husband. Or maybe if she won the war. I don't know how it worked, but in my opinion, it was essentially a currency exchanged for an opportunity to wage war, which is a gamble. I've gone on far longer than I would have liked. I'm trying to figure out how to conclude this about Sasha Grey. When the spy chat, one time I decided I was going to quit smoking cigarettes. That was like 9:30 at night, smoked my last cigarette or whatever it was. And laid in bed around 11, and by 1 a.m., I was continually wide awake and experiencing severe mental trauma. Because what I needed to do was look up the NASA code sets that I wrote. A piece of information that was, I had a text expander keyed in for these two code sets, 24, otherwise meaningless letters and numbers and words. And letters, numbers, and words. So I had to go get a cigarette. I had to make my peace so I had to go to the store, come back, and then I had to make my peace with the fact that I had to now find these code words. Like at this moment, it had become a crisis. And somehow Sasha Grey is involved with that connection. And it's hard to say like when you get to that point where what the psychopathic cop needs is he needs me to smoke a cigarette, and for whatever reason also I have to deliver that I do in fact have these code words onto Twitter. Like it was crisis levels 911, dude. And so when you understand that element of how I live and breathe to prevent myself from being defeated by mind control, right? Like I didn't care that I couldn't remember these code sets. I didn't care that I might not have these code sets anymore because they've been captured. I sent them to NASA. I sent them to the government. If they don't have, of the 500 times that I sent the codes out, if they don't have them yet, I don't know what to tell you. I don't think they're valid. I've wasted my time. And so, like, that was my perspective, but it was like, no, Sasha Grey, she's thinking about having you on Tumblr. And it was this whole, like, 2 hours of just being berated in the mind again and again. Like, no, Sasha Grey she's going to be on Twitch. Sorry, she's going to be on Twitch. And then you're going to be sitting there, and then you're going to type in your NASA codes, and you'll be like, yeah, I'm with NASA now. And it's like, but they wanted it to be a big joke. So the entire journey was like, in truth, was like, no, we're going to tell him that we're going to have a fake NASA sticker. And so ultimately that has to get shut down. Ultimately at 1 o'clock in the morning, I have to go smoke a cigarette. I have to figure out these passwords, these code words are. I found them. I had to edit them a little bit. They evolved a little bit, maybe. I don't even know them anymore. I don't even worry about them because they became this toy that ultimately NASA and myself had to steal documents back that they had stored in Sasha Grey's closet. Are you for real? It's so offensive. Like, so Sasha Grey has stolen NASA documents and is now trying to schedule my big moment on Twitch as a prank, because that's what the psychopathic cop has ordered. The psychopathic cop didn't order, let's get the NASA code sets approved to be on Twitch by NASA for Sasha Grey to ask for as a presentation of Alexander's first initiation of contact with Sasha Grey to begin their relationship. This was a very civil conversation. And then it became about me murdering Sasha Grey's relationship. Around January 10th, give or take, it became a passion. Like, no, he's going to kill me today. He's going to kill me today. And I don't know if it's the real Sasha Grey or a fake Sasha Grey. You know, I mean, like, sometimes I can tell, like, where in my opinion, like, you know, there's a few Sasha Socks moments in my mind, and there's a couple moments that, like, where her head tilts my head or whatever, where I'm like, yeah, that's the actual Sasha Grey connection. And then there's just other ones where it's just like I'm just being yelled at by someone that sounds like the Sasha Grey voice. But you never really know for sure, you know. Especially with her. I mean, she's very sneaky. So it became about convincing me, and so my language became very obtuse and very complex, because ultimately I was issuing a non-threatening, threatening statement about the reality of the duality that I'm forced to negotiate. And so, whereas, no, I did not make a threat, but I certainly presented an aggressive scenario that is not my fault. Like, ultimately it was about, I'm going to make this as hard for him as possible. Okay. What I'm involved with is called total war. Total war means torture and death. That means in order to win a war, I'm going to have to torture somebody and I'm going to kill somebody. And so Sasha Grey's sitting there saying, I have my war tokens. I'm going to war. Okay. I need to win war. What I do is win war. My name's Master Chief General Alexander. I win wars. That's who I am. As far as I'm concerned, I'm undefeated, having suffered failures to prepare. Thus, losses were never really, like, it wasn't even like 70% my idea to go into this conflict, you know? Like, if you're not even at a 70% valuation of my military intelligence, you can't blame me for anything that happens out there. And so, by and by, ultimately what they decide, they want me to call her a whore. This is probably, you know, a Valentine's Day celebration, and, you know, it was just this, like, really scary couple of days with these women, and you know, scary just in terms of the abuse that they were either having to reveal or having to experience. And the fact of the matter is, as I'm calling my wife a whore, I'm explaining to the Los Angeles Police Department and a character named Fluffy Lives from Twitch, who I look is a total parasite in her life. I mean, a total parasite. Just classic porno troll hanger-on. And I explained to them 14 of the major problems Sasha Grey now has that were concerns in December 2022, but are now ever-present national security risks. Like, it's a national security risk in terms of the overall stability of our nation if Sasha Grey is forced to be arrested as a prisoner of a feudal war being announced as part of the process of the military arrest of Donald Trump, and is now publicly held captive as a prisoner of war going through some form of mental health rehabilitation to formally be able to address her thrice divorced ex-husband whom she participated as an axe murderer, executioner on some level for a person that would have otherwise had sex with me. So she's out there saying, I can cock block him to the point I can kill another woman who might have sex with him. And then is refusing me sex on a long-term basis. And ultimately, that's the dynamic that the Los Angeles Police Department, Fluffy Lives, and the overall state of California have set up for all of these women, where they want to continually present the fact that these women are worthless, that these women are being arrested, that these women are being held hostage. And there's certainly absolutely a dynamic of that. But it is their choice to continue to go to war with these women as part of their chain of command that forces such terrible dynamics for what is ultimately a very delicate, very important introduction to me personally, as because it ultimately defines the next 15 years of my life of, do I have the people that were supposed to be my friends, that were supposed to be my future queens, do I have them in my life and wanting what is best for me and helping me get healthy? Or do I have 15 cases of long-term Guantanamo Bay level detention that I have to determine? And as an investigator, I'm prepared to take truths on both sides and accept the outcome that the community decides, because I am sick of trying to negotiate for their freedom when ultimately their freedom relates to the captivity of hundreds of thousands of hostages, millions of people held under the duress of sociological captivity through distribution of global mobile data intranets, creating things like disappearing money in the account where you can never trace back that you're now missing $250. Like, you know that on one day you had 900, and then on the next day you had 300, and then on the following day you ultimately had like $450. But you spent $225 and tried to take an Uber. Okay, so you get involved with those type of level problems with millions of people, and it's ultimately attached to them being able to continue to dominate these people as their hostages while they possess and wield these women. And we don't know how much is actually tied into that, but certainly their ability to advance offense is going to be interdicted when I capture Donald Trump, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and a whole lot of other people, all the necessary, the Supreme Court, all of them, United States House of Representatives, all of them, because they're all nuts, every single one of them. And hopefully we'll have a peaceful Senate minus the waterfall of the presidency as I negotiate a stability operation aboard Air Force One. And everybody seems to rely very heavily upon being ready to not be a dumbass on that day. But ultimately, because of the extreme nature of this situation, ultimately what you're forcing me to set up is to agree to arrest Donald Trump while Sasha Grey is on Twitch.